Raisin meeting. So, before we start with our meeting, let's quickly get into what we do, who we are. So, we are Fund Raisin. We empower artists, individuals, and communities to connect together to impact the world. Fundraising enables artists and sponsors to join forces, gather supporters, and transfer energy in the form of money to a beneficiary. Together, they create a campaign website, and then anyone can give their support by buying limited edition digital art. For any reason,
Fund Raisin.
Fundraising.
yes. And we have a very special guest with us today. We have Alisa. Alisa, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, thank you, Saheen. My name is Alisa Lamont, and I have spent nearly 30 years in philanthropy, working as a practitioner, director of donor relations, really working with the donors who give money to all sorts of nonprofits, arts, and education institutions. And I've worked as a consultant as well, and also done some scholarly research in the field of philanthropy, studying what makes donors tick. Why do they give?
Yes. So we often assume that people donate for some reason to help others, but Alisa today will be giving us some light by telling us about her philanthropy research that only tells a part of the story, and then we can let us know that which persona is the best fit for fundraising. Do we have something that's the best fit for fundraising, or is everyone a part of fundraising? So, Alisa, why don't you tell us a little more about the seven phases of philanthropy? What does this mean for fundraising, the creators, and for platforms like us? Where do they stand for us?
Yeah, thank you, Zaheen. Yes, well, I think every fundraising campaign tells two stories. The first one is what we expect. It's about the artist, the nonprofit, the research, the mission. It's the story that we spend many hours refining and telling. But there's another story that's unfolding before someone ever visits a fundraising campaign site, and it's the donor's story. Every donor carries a lifetime of experiences, beliefs, relationships, values. So when two people give each $100, from the outside, those gifts might look identical, but internally, one donor might be expressing gratitude, another's investing in the future, maybe another is supporting friends. They're giving for very different reasons. And so that's what the seven faces of philanthropy is about. Who is listening to the stories that we are telling? Have you ever watched the exact same movie with someone else and realized afterwards that you took away completely different messages?
Yeah,
That's
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
fundraising,
absolutely.
right? That's what a fundraising campaign is all about. So today, every marketing team builds personas, customer personas, audience segments, user journeys. But 30 years ago, before that term became popular, Russ Allen Prince and Karen Maru File were already studying something pretty fascinating. They interviewed affluent donors. So donors who were giving what they called major gifts, not to discover how much they gave, but why they gave. And what they found surprised them. Money was not the common denominator, motivation was. So they identified 7 recurring patterns that they called
Yeah,
faces.
thank you
And
so much for sharing.
yes, Kit, thank you for sharing those 7 faces online here. So I think they were about 30 years ahead of marketing. They created a framework that they call the 7 faces of philanthropy. And the value of it is that it reminds us not to assume that everyone is motivated by the same thing. So it's really 7, we can think about it as maybe 7 ways to tell one story. So what they found was, of the people that they surveyed 800 people across the United States. who had given a major gift. And they never really say what a major gift is, but just for context, in our industry today, in today's dollars, a major gift is considered about $50,000 and up. So $10,000 a year for 5 years and up. So they found that these people were kind of falling into 7 pretty coalesced segments. And I would love to just describe each one, and maybe we can think a little bit less like fundraisers and more like marketers. If someone was, landing on a fundraising page, what story would resonate with them based on what we're going to describe here. The largest segment is the communitarian. And so, Kit, if you move to the next page, the way I had put together these slides was about the profile of, what motivates a person to give, and then what they value, so what might be happening inside them, and when they give, what they're looking for. So a communitarian really believes that doing good makes good sense. They care about the health of their community. Their first question isn't, how does this help one person? It's really about, how do we make the community stronger? So the headline really isn't, help me rebuild my art studio. It's, help restore a creative cornerstone of our community. That's the story they want. So they're looking for, some social recognition, perhaps, when they give. They want to be seen as a strong person in the community supporting the local space. That's a communitarian. Let's move to the next one, the devout. The devout sees generosity as an expression of faith, or their deeply held spiritual values. Their giving is rooted in purpose and service. They're not necessarily looking for recognition. They're looking for alignment with their values. So instead of focusing on the artist, you might emphasize the campaign's mission. Together we're using creativity to build hope, healing, and beauty into the world. Saheen, from a storytelling perspective, how might you communicate purpose without sounding overly sentimental?
I think the basic reason how we differentiate fundraising is that we have a purpose, and both the personas that you have described till now, Alisa, is that the communitarian who believe doing good makes good. So that is where also we connect, where whatever the community campaign is, people will feel the local impact, and that persona also fits in. And devout, doing good is God's will. They are
Yes.
faith driven, they are high trustworthy, they believe in consistently giving something. So yeah, so they see from a perspective where things aren't transactional. If I give something in return, necessarily I must receive something as well. So there, so this is where they can, the faith inspired, the generosity that comes within them, they can support.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's very beautiful. And that's the second largest segment of donors who give.
Oh,
Really are giving out of that trust and that faith. And they're not really looking for recognition, like you said. It's they're looking for keeping, the community going, and they're giving because of their values. So very good. I like that answer. Let's look at the next one, the investor. This one is a little different. Oh, sorry, I have disappeared. But I am still very much here. The investor is not cynical. They're simply analytical. They want confidence that their gift is going to accomplish something meaningful. So they're looking for accountability. They're looking for results. They really appreciate transparency. your campaign might say, your gift will rebuild a space. It will replace essential tools. It will allow, business to resume within X number of months. Notice the difference. We're talking about measurable outcomes for an investor. So they are more business-like. They also are wanting to support the community, but they're looking for the results more so than the gift.
Yes.
So, yeah, Mari, let me ask you a question. I know that you've worked with fundraising for quite a while here. So when you're helping campaigns to succeed, do you find that people naturally include this kind of specificity when they, when they purchase something to support a beneficiary? Do you think they're looking for something specific as an outcome, or are they giving more, emotionally?
Um, well, one specific feature for of fundraising allows people to get this piece of art because we have artists working with a sponsor, and after they create the campaign, um, the way they raise funds is that supporters or donors they buy this piece of art. So I think they mostly do it because of they want to support, like for instance, and I mean the thing of fundraising is like for any reason means like any kind of campaigns. We have launched campaigns for supporting what is his name, we had this campaign called Catrops for supporting uh
Oh, Blake.
animals. Yeah, the
Yeah.
artist was Blake. um so people were donating because they love pets. They love cats, they
Yes.
love dogs. So these kind of donors were like, oh yeah, I mean, I understand that need, and the need was that there were a lot of dogs and cats in the streets in Venezuela. That campaign was in
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela. So people just connected in that emotional way because they care about them. We also launched another campaign for the Venezuela earthquake relief, and people were just donating because they just want to support people that suffer and lost everything. So,
Yeah.
and probably is just maybe communitarian sort of like, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, we receive a lot of support in social media from the community we belong, like for instance in blockchain avalanche community. They were just posting a lot about it. I think even though they were not donating, they were just enthusiastic about supporting somehow. um yeah, so it will depend, and there's why we need to learn about this, because how do we know? I mean, we're not launching only one campaign for one specific kind of person. We are doing like for different kind of person. So we have a learning curve that will take time to, but the thing is like we are starting, like where should we
Mm-hmm.
start is the question. So where do we start to get success, and then running and diversify more. So we were also thinking about campaign crisis campaigns, so giving a fast result for example Venezuela earthquake or any other crisis around the world, and also recruiting artists from several parts of the world that can create art for those purposes. That was one idea, but the same, how does it align to what you are sharing it with us? That's what we want to figure out. Like,
Yeah.
are we
Good
in the I mean
Yeah,
the
I would
right way? We need to,
question.
you know
I would just like to add one point here is that
Please.
so for personas who are investors, who are result oriented, who looks for their ROI, so for them we do have like they can see that how much contribution is going to where, and it is the donors who decide that how much percentage should go to the artists, how much percentage should go to the beneficiary. So we do have the metrics for that.
That's wonderful. And that would be probably what an investor is looking for. They would like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just thinking, Alyssa, that as we go through these, and along with just what you were saying, Zaheen, as different features of our site, I was thinking we can think about how different features that we already have or we may want to build align with each one of these faces or personas. So if we have a campaign where we think it's going to be investor heavy, for instance, we'll want to emphasize the accountability
Mm-hmm.
feature as we present it to them. Whereas, for the communitarian or the devout, it's the shared mission, that we're on this mission to improve the community or to, align with religious values. So so I'm taking little notes as we were going through about that. So
Yes, and those kind of align with exactly as Mari had said in a crisis campaign. When you're trying to tell a story, those are probably the first responders that you will get in a campaign, communitarian and the devout, who will respond to something, in terms of a crisis.
and
So
maybe the investors later on, right? I mean,
maybe, or
or the
like you
recovery.
said, yep, different aspects of your fundraising, features are going to, really interest different types of donors. And the investors certainly would be on if you had a pie chart or if you had some kind of way of showing where the money's going and what has been raised and who's getting what, the investor would likely be very interested in that and may even want to support more. Let's go to the next one and see what kind of conversations come out.
Yes, we're working on it. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
There. Yes,
Yes,
here we
the
go.
socialite.
Just one more thought. I just want to share with you, Alyssa, as far as the investor goes, is that we've been talking in talks with the United Nations Development Program in Venezuela because they're interested in this earthquake relief, and they've been thinking about long term as well as short term. So about and talking about 3 different campaigns, and it occurs to me that the later campaign will be maybe the investors would be most interested in this. And I'll just say one more interesting thing is that there's one way you can look at a fundraising campaign is as a donation, but another way you can look at it is as a buying art, right?
Yeah.
And that was very interesting to that UNDP as well, because tell me if I'm wrong, you guys, but if I believe what Anna was saying was that I think individuals aren't allowed to just do a GoFundMe in Venezuela, but they can sell their stuff. So fundraising lets them do that, in a way that's still raising money to help them, but in this legal way. So anyway.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and just as an investor, purchasing art, there may be some interesting, tax benefits or, things that an investor would be looking at when they are considering, how they're going to be spending their money. Okay. The socialite. So the socialite really believes that generosity is something to be experienced together. So giving creates community. It's joyful. It's social. Think, in the fundraising world, these would be more like the galas that people go to, the fundraising kinds of benefits. So trying to think of it from a fundraising point of view, instead of saying, please support this artist, you might say, join hundreds of supporters celebrating local creativity. Notice that subtle shift. People aren't just making a donation, they're joining a movement, with others. So from a marketing perspective, does that sound familiar?
Yeah, well, it sounds, again, aligning with our features. One thing that NFTs have been really good at is creating clubs. You'll have these clubs where everyone has a picture that sort of looks like the other people's picture. And That's one been a big use case for NFTs, which is what's going on under the covers in fundraising. So where you buy this and then you're part of a social scene, or that's one feature we could add.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. So it's about building belonging, rather than simply asking for support. So yeah, and that's what the socialite values, as it says on the slide here, acknowledgement as part of a social group rather than as just an individual giver. All right, so that's the socialite. Let's look at the next one here. This this one is called the repayer. Now, I'm not sure how this would relate. So maybe you can help me out here. But the repayer is one that I have encountered a lot in my work because it's usually about a person's story that begins years before they make a gift. So think somebody who attended college and received a scholarship. And then they graduated and had a great career. And then they wanted to give back and decided to give to a scholarship. So for me, spending most of my career in higher education philanthropy, that's what I encounter. Something happened. Someone changed a person's life, whether it was a teacher or a doctor. We see this in healthcare a lot, a mentor. Their philanthropy is an expression of gratitude, giving back. So I'm not really sure how that might apply here at fundraising, but does somebody
I
have?
would, I
Yes.
do have, I mean, just
Please.
thinking about it, I do like here is where like since fundraising is multifaceted and artists play a great role, yeah, for in fundraising. So this is where I think is a place for artists to give back. Like we do have an artist uh whose mother passed away due to cancer, and she made art uh, to help, like she wants to do a campaign on fundraising to help cancer survivors, or to people uh, help people, yes. And then we also have an artist who has made, so we do believe in making art for a cause. Yes, thank you,
Oh,
Kit.
look at that. That's beautiful. Yes. And so that campaign, yeah, that shows some experience changed someone's life. And then they want to create opportunities to help others. So it's not
Correct.
necessarily a fundraising message. It's kind of a gratitude message,
Yeah, a personal connection.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That's very beautiful.
mhm.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And so that would be, when yeah, somebody wants to join in giving and showing gratitude.
And,
Um,
and one thing we were thinking, Paola is that artist, but
Uh,
there are many other artists whose families been affected by cancer, breast cancer, other kinds of cancer. And then there are these, big institutions like, Dana Farber or Sloan Kettering, uh, who, are cancer research institutions who already raise money in other ways, and have
mhm,
somebody like you working for them, right? And
mhm,
our a team, right? And um, we were thinking that it's such a powerful story, talking about storytelling, where we actually would gather a group of maybe 10 different artists and use them together to raise money for that institution. And that's one thing that I think is just really special and unique about fundraising is that it allows for those synergies and those alignments between artists who are very not deep pockets, donors who indeed have some deep pockets, and organizations who are much bigger who might not ever work with these artists, but here's an opportunity to do so. So, and any thoughts on that, Alyssa, about how to approach those people who are in your position at those institutions?
Yeah, you and I had talked about that really briefly, and it could even be something around, an event, a gallery tour, a gallery of digital art within the hospital space, that people could view and be inspired by and want to give. The thing about a repair, as we're looking at this slide, they're not necessarily people who have very deep pockets, and they might not necessarily be looking for a philanthropic way to really show that they are giving. They're giving because they are repaying. They're giving back because they are expressing gratitude for something that helped them. So somebody entering the halls of Dana-Farber Cancer Center, and seeing the art and remembering their family member who received really life-saving treatment there at Dana-Farber, they may be inspired to give as a repayer. They may want to do something to help. So,
Very yeah.
yeah, I like to explore that a little bit more, and certainly you would start by reaching out to those cancer centers, to their development arms, to the people who really work on, event planning or some kinds of strategic planning within the organization to raise funds.
I have a small thing to add here. Like, so it's I think a lot of the artists and other people are also doing in like in terms of giving back, just not as gratitude, but also to create awareness among other people. Also, that's also, if you think on a larger scale, that is also sort of a gratitude, right? So, so Mike, so Alisa, like, are they also repairs in that scenario?
Ah, I see. The artists themselves, are they
Yes,
repairs?
yes.
Yeah. That really is a good way of expressing a repayer. Yes. I mean, it is a persona after all. It's a person who maybe they're artists, creativity changed their lives when they were young, and they have gone on to work in that space, and they want to create that same opportunity for others. Is that what you're thinking about? So it may not necessarily be for a specific fundraising cause, but it's more for a community.
Yes, I like different kind of problems. If they pick up with different problems and they just try to be try to spread awareness to more people by their art, because I think art is a powerful mode of spreading messages, right, in a very nice way. And it's so I think so that was my, yes, that's what I mean. I feel personally that can be one of our repair personas. Yeah.
I think you are an artist, Asmita, so you have that view, bringing who you are to inspire others using the art as the medium, as a way. It's what makes I worked with many arts organizations when I was having a consulting company in New York City. And it's just at a time when funding is being taken away from the arts. This is such a beautiful way to lean into it, because art, you are right, absolutely. It tells a story, and it tells our history. When, if you studied in high school or in college, when you're studying anything about history, art is a very big part of it, right? Because it is showing us, visually what was happening in that time.
And it's opinionated.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's showing opinions, perspectives, values, meaning. I live in Minneapolis, where we had, you may have remembered the George Floyd murder.
Yes.
And a lot of graffiti artists who didn't have much money to give, or didn't have, other ways of contributing to helping our community heal, they did graffiti art on the buildings. And, where I work currently at the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, we have our art department going around and taking photos of the graffiti, the street art, to remember it, because art is telling the story. We don't want to forget what happened in 2020. You're absolutely right. Artists are repayers using their craft to inspire others.
Right.
That's very nice. Thank you for saying that. Okay, two more. We have the altruist next. The altruist is a small percentage of the population, only 8%. The altruist gives because helping others simply feels right. They are not looking for a tax benefit, no social benefit, not even personal connection. Giving just reflects who they are. So a campaign for an altruist would be very simple. Every person deserves the opportunity to create beauty. Something, sometimes less is more with an altruist. Just appealing to purpose rather than outcomes. They're not giving because of a faith reason. They're giving because of almost like a self-actualization.
Okay.
The last one, the dynast, is it at that time, 30 years ago, was the smallest group. The dynast was someone who is receiving an inheritance. So the dynast sees generosity as something that was passed down from one generation to the next, where giving was a part of the family's identity, legacy, stewardship matters, future generations matter. But I would be interested to try to replicate this study because there is a lot of more wealth in the world now than there was 30 years ago. And you might have heard about this. There's this intergenerational transfer of wealth where baby boomers are coming to their end of life, and they are going to be transferring wealth to the next generation to almost $100 trillion around the world. So there's a younger generation that's going to be inheriting a lot of money. And what are they going to do with this? So campaign might say to help ensure that future generations of artists have the opportunities we enjoy today, or that future generations are going to have, optimal health, through treatments or cures that we can find. So we've shifted from today's need to tomorrow's legacy. That's the way the dynasties operate.
It's really interesting because the values of those generations are probably different from each other too, right? So,
Yeah.
So the values of the donations might shift as well.
You are right about that. Even in the book, The 7 Faces of Philanthropy 30 years ago, the authors did say there are kind of two branches of dynasts. One branch carries on the family legacy and will continue giving to whatever had been given for generations. But the other branch of young folks will break from tradition. There will be other causes that are more important to them because, just based on their contemporary life and what they're experiencing, and they're not going to want to give to the generations past. They're going to want to find new things. And you'll see that these days, those people who are inheriting the money are kind of like the millennial generation, we call them. And they are less tied to an organization or an institution and more interested in a cause. So they're not loyal to giving to the same place every year. It's more who is, upholding the values that I'm interested in right now, whether it's the environment or social justice. These are the kinds of things that we're seeing that is breaking from past traditions.
Interesting.
A lot of opportunity here. So here's what fascinates me with those 7 faces. You're not necessarily changing the campaign. You're not changing the artist or the financial need, but you might change the story that you choose to tell. That's where philanthropy and marketing really intersect. The goal is to recognize that people connect with different aspects of the same truth. And if we understand our audience more deeply, we can tailor the story to speak to them and motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you think of all of that?
I think it's interesting because one history can be tell of different ways. So depend of how you tell to the people the history, the right donors come to the what they think it's okay. So I think it's very personal of for each one. So that is very interesting.
Good. Yeah, I agree. Now, I have to admit I'm not a blockchain expert and I can't explain cryptocurrency, as well as you can, but I don't think that's why Kit invited me. But technology is changing incredibly fast, but like you were saying, Mari Carmen, human generosity evolves much more slowly. Whether someone's writing a check or giving a gift through Apple Pay or contributing, through cryptocurrency, they're still asking those same questions. Do I trust this? Does this cause matter? Is it aligned with who I am? Will I make a difference?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't. Fundraising is built for people like you, Alisa, who don't understand crypto, and We've even taken that word NFT out on purpose because that's not the point. It is, but underlying that, there are features like that club aspect of joining a community. That
Mhm.
it's basically you participate in a fundraising campaign, and then you're part of this. You participated, you bought a cat drop, or you supported this earthquake. And some features we don't have yet that are in our list of future features are a chat room or just message board or Reddit type interface for people who have all only for exclusive just to the people who have donated. So that
Oh,
and different ones of these correspond to different of these personas or faces, like the socialite, as I mentioned. But then there's also blockchain allows accountability. So you have this natural ledger of what exactly happened and where the money ended up. And that seems to be very appealing to the investor, for instance, and anybody really who wants to make sure that their money went where it was. And one problem with blockchain is there's just all this reputation around fraud around it, which is unfortunately true, but it's more just money attracts fraudsters. There's just, I mean, but on the flip side of that, there are strong accounting, and to bring those accounting features forward is a really big thing. And
can I
yeah,
can I
go ahead.
ask you, Kit? I mean, I think it's related, but what inspired you to build a fundraising platform around blockchain? Was there
Oh,
when
okay.
you
So
thought about
yeah,
it?
I mean, I saw this technology NFTs, right? And I was like, th- and people were using it in a very, very simple and in what I felt was a very uh, uninspired way, considering what the technology could accomplish. So, um, but so they were just selling art, and and in fact, or they were doing these club things. So, which I thought was more interesting. I mean, I thought it was really cool that artists had a way to sell art, but I was like, you have this financial system that's connected, and really NFTs are at their heart a certificate of something, a certificate of ownership. So they're saying, I have the right to do this. I have the right to sell this art to somebody else later, or like it's a ownership certificate or a membership certificate or something like that. And thinking about that, I was like, and I've always been interested in social how communities gather together to impact the world. And I didn't have those words. The team, we came up with those words finally, and I think we really sort of put our finger on it. So that's the origin story. Thanks for asking. But sort of like as a technologist, I could see how you could apply this technology. So
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, I guess, Mari, you've worked with Kit for a long time. So when you're helping someone launch a campaign or when you're working on building the campaign, where do you see, um, you know, the most benefit here from what we're talking about? I mean, is it telling someone's story or understanding the people that you're trying to reach?
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, Zahin mentioned before, this we have several personas. We have the sponsor, we have the artist, and we have the supporter.
let
So
me just quick we and just so you know, we're coming up on time here, so we have to wind up. But I will share our persona slide with you before we
Perfect.
where let me just try to find it here.
yeah, that'd be nice. So, for
Just so you
instance, the
yeah.
artist, when I create an art by with the artist, we meet with the artist, we discuss, um, and they have questions for us like, what are we building, what are we creating, and then if they feel, oh yeah, I mean, I can create art for that, they start the brainstorming creative sessions, and then once the art is created, the sponsor says, yeah, I like that art, and there's like a matching between both. The sponsor shares what is their goal, like, I mean, they have a goal in sense of money, and also the artist can take a percentage of it, so it is shared. Um, and there is kind of a complexity between getting those in balance. I mean, because
Right.
as we have just a minimal viable product, we right now at this stage we have to go hand by hand with every of our personas to understand how it works. But in general, people get so excited because this is different. Like, if you use for GoFundMe, you just pay and that's it. But in fundraising, you pay and you get a piece of art from someone that worked hard for that and wants to share that, hey, I'm supporting this too. So
Yeah.
that I think that is also beautiful for me, at least, because we are connecting people. And right now in this time, it's really hard trying to connect people, right? Like, right
Right.
now, I mean, I feel we are more and more isolated, so this forces us to connect more, and this is really nice because I think we, at this stage we are in the world, we need to connect more. We need to uh support each other more, like saying, hey, I'm here, I'm doing this, and oh yeah, I'll support it, I can, so I will. And
I love
if
it.
that answers your question, or was too.
It absolutely does. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The different personas and so I would love everyone as we're coming to the end, including people who might be listening to this podcast to answer one question, in take away with you, which of the seven faces is most like you? And has that changed over the course of your life? Um, yeah, because actually understanding your own face can help you with sharing the story and considering the other faces or personas. And that's what makes philanthropy endlessly fascinating.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Alisa, for reminding us that
Yeah.
we shouldn't assume that every donor is motivated by the same message. Generosity comes from many places. Thank you for helping us understand the motivations better, and we will make sure that fundraising is more inclusive, more effective, and caters to all the seven personas.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me today, everybody.
Alyssa, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, and it just very helpful. So really nice discussion, everybody.